Obviously, first-person shooters are loaded with guns, but there's some completely insane weapons out there that we just don't get the chance to wield. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on Gameranx, 10 insane video game weapons we never got to use. Starting off at number 10, it is the nail gun from Doom 2016. Now, we all love a good nail gun, that's for sure. But if you're thinking, you probably say to yourself, oh yes, that's right, Quake had a nail gun. And this nail gun looks suspiciously like that nail gun. It does not look like a nail gun you might see on a construction site. That's thankful, on account that would require an air pressure hose. And thanks to people rummaging around in the Doom 2016 files, they found out that there was an original plan to have this as a gun in the new Doom. Now, unfortunately, there's not really any way to hack the gun in. I'm sure somebody is working on that, but currently, there's not really any means to do it. Which sucks, because the nail gun in Quake is fun as hell. I enjoy the hell out of Quake. Honestly, I think it'd be really cool to see this gun in Doom. At number 9 is the Four Kings Greatsword from Dark Souls. Now, this is a really interesting sword because, honestly, if you just saw the model and didn't have a prior understanding that it is in fact a sword, you might think it was not a sword. You might think it was some kind of, I don't know, leaf, perhaps? But knowing that it is a sword makes it a pretty cool looking sword. However, as an in-game item, which is again how people usually find this stuff, it doesn't have anything like stats or movesets or any animations. It's a great sword, which is also, I think, pretty interesting because, again, it is shaped like a leaf that has been pulled apart. Honestly, if I saw somebody coming at me with this thing, I would be pretty scared. The fact that they have the ability to wield such a sword, like a sword, would make me pretty nervous. Again, it looks like perhaps one of the most unwieldy type weapons in the world, and if you were just going around cutting stuff with that, ouch. I mean, you'd have to have some strength, right? Doesn't even matter if it's a good sword if you're that strong, but it's probably a good sword because they design stuff like that to be badass. At number 8 is the Brick Blaster, which is a weapon from Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare that you cannot obtain in any possible way, at least for real. There are console commands that you can use to use this weapon, and it's kind of a silly weapon. So when you shoot it, a bullet doesn't just fly towards your foe, but also a cinder block. Hence the name Brick Blaster. It blasts bricks, and any bricks that you end up shooting actually stay on the map for a while. It also doesn't make any sounds whatsoever, making it a pretty effective weapon, at least in terms of guns that shoot cinder blocks. I mean, it's a pistol too. Just a semi-automatic handheld pistol, and the damn thing shoots cinder blocks. Like, if we're gonna be completely clear, that is funny. Whoever came up with this idea on the Call of Duty team, that was a great idea. And you should have made it so that we were able to use the damn thing instead of having to hack it away from the game's innards. In fact, there should be a multiplayer mode in which everybody is forced to use the brick gun. That just seems like fun to me. At number 7, the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII is in Final Fantasy X's files. Now, it is of course an unused weapon. I think we all would have been playing around with Cloud's Buster Sword from day one if we knew it was a possible thing. If there's anything that people have major nostalgia for, it's Final Fantasy VII. Even though the remake has come out, there's still kind of a reverence for Final Fantasy VII that just, I think, managed to really inform what people wanted out of Final Fantasy games from then on. And having this kind of little nod in Final Fantasy X is kind of cool, if a little frustrating they didn't follow through on it. At number 6 is Grand Theft Auto V's Programmable AR. Now, the name is a little bit deceptive because it is a grenade launcher. The fact that it is called the Programmable Assault Rifle refers specifically to the ability to adjust fire rate and range, which is something the real-life gun it is based on, the XM25 CDTE grenade launcher, does itself. Now, back in the day when this was found, this is probably 3-4 years ago, there was a lot of speculation that it was going to end up in GTA Online, but that is definitely not a place we ever actually got to use it. And it is a very cool gun to use. It is definitely not an official gun. It is something that has been uncovered. And I really actually hope pretty big time that it does end up in Grand Theft Auto 6 or something. In terms of like grenade launchers, it doesn't even feel like, it feels more like a rocket launcher, and it feels like one with some serious beef. At number 5 is the trip mine in Half-Life Alyx. So obviously there are trip mines in the game. You have to hack them and shut them off, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about an item that actually allowed you to hold in your inventory trip mines and put them on the wall yourself, activate them, and basically have a trap that you can use against the Combine. They're a cool item, in my opinion, specifically because it's just something that you previously kind of just had to avoid or hack or disable, whatever you want to call it. They were an obstacle more than an item or a weapon. But due to the community doing a bunch of hacking of the Half-Life Alyx engine, there's a lot of interesting stuff that they found, and the usable trip mine is probably one of the cooler things. It's just cool because before this was hacked into the game, it was an exclusive Combine thing, and you can kind of stick it to them. I mean, you can't literally stick it to them, you can stick it to the wall, but yeah. At number 4 is the Combine Guard Gun. It's a weapon that was cut from Half-Life 2. It's actually playable in the Half-Life 2 beta. It is something that is for sure not finished because the gun that the Combine soldiers had looked different than the one that you picked up after beating them, which I think it's kind of funny, but it's not really relevant. It's actually a really cool looking gun. It does have quite a bit of an alien feel to it, but it also still manages to be a little bit industrial looking as well. The way it was intended to work was it would fire a disintegration beam, not unlike the one that the Strider, those weird sort of spider things that could shoot lasers like that. And it was basically intended to be used against the Striders because obviously giving them a taste of their own medicine is an appealing prospect. No one likes those Striders. They're a huge pain. They're ugly. They're big spider machines. I mean, what else do I need to say about them? Screw those things. And number 3 is the Gravity Rifle from Halo Combat Evolved. The Gravity Rifle is an interesting looking thing, looking kind of like a dustbuster. Like if you have a handheld vacuum cleaner in your house that is for like cleaning up the couch or something, you know what I'm talking about. It looks like that. That's not what it does though. It obviously does not clean the couch. It is clearly not a finished weapon, as the only thing it does is produce flames on its target, but given it's a gravity rifle, it's probably intended to do something along the lines of forcefully compressing matter in concentration around a certain place. That's my guess. Again, it was unfinished. It didn't have an animation for being fired. It did make a bright flash. And it doesn't have like the code for like ammunition, so it just has unlimited ammunition. You can only really do anything on Halo Custom Edition using the command cheat, cheat_all_weapons. I mean, it's a cool weapon. It would have been nice to see exactly what it would look like as a finished thing and how they would incorporate it into the mythos of the game. At number 2 is the Faderator from Fallout New Vegas. The Faderator is basically a fully automatic gas rifle, which is pretty interesting. It's obviously a very powerful weapon. You can take out most enemies in one shot. It has pretty much infinite ammo. It is not a cut weapon. It's actually a weapon intended for debug, as in people use this weapon to get through combat easier, to get through parts in the game in which they were not actually having to do stuff, like for playtesting purposes. Now, obviously, it is extremely overpowered. I don't think it would have possibly made it into the game in the way that we see it. One shot, one kill for most enemies is obviously more than a regular in-game gun might really pan out in terms of a well-balanced game. But it's actually just a really cool looking gun. The way it fires is satisfying. Like, it's a fully automatic gas rifle. It's got a scope. It's pretty big and badass and industrial looking. Like, in all honesty, I really wish it was actually in the game or in a future Fallout game. Bethesda. And finally, at number 1 is a game that I think didn't really get the amount of attention it deserved. It was Prey by Arcane, which is basically their follow-up to Dishonored and followed a lot of conventions of the original Prey series, but also, again, had that Arcane feeling. I do love my Arcane games. They had a cut gun that the Prey lead systems designer Seth Shane talked about, which was actually a speaking gun. Now, we have obviously seen things along those lines. This started off saying things like reloading, firing, target acquired, that type of thing. But according to Seth Shane, the funny thing about this gun was that over time, it would start saying other things, like questioning its own existence and sort of becoming self-aware that it is itself a gun, and just being like, why am I, what are we doing this for? Why am I here? And I do think that would probably be either funny to some people or perhaps kind of disturbing to others. They said the reason it didn't make it into the game was that they just couldn't do it with an acceptable level of polish. And it's possible we'll see it in some future game, because that's a funny idea. That's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable all notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on Gameranx.